What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you today to talk about some of our biggest trade targets in Dynasty Fantasy Football. It's about week 8 of the NFL season right now, so you guys are probably figuring out, am I a contender? Am I a rebuilder? Basically, what we're going to be going through today is 4 rebuilding trade targets and 4 contending trade targets that you guys can go out and send some offers for in your Dynasty leagues. I think, at this point in the season, you should know if you're one or the other. And you should be able to make moves, based on that assessment. So, Danny, how you doing today?
Doing well. And as Corey just kind of said, you should know what you are, but if you don't know, you have to figure that out real quick. We're going into week 8 of the football season. If you don't know whether you're a contender or a rebuilder, you're neither, and that is the worst position you could be in Dynasty. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling ready. Again, you mentioned 4 trade targets for rebuilders, 4 trade targets for contenders, kind of giving you a glimpse as to what their relative value is on the market via some trades on DLF, kind of giving you guys a gauge of where do the market values them, where we value them, and why they could be a potential value given their current trade cost. So I'm good. I'm ready to roll. Let's hit that damn intro and get into the first target of the video. All right, so let's start off with the rebuilders. And these are more so guys that are having youth on their side, having young, tantalizing future value, while their current value may not be up to par with where we think they could end up being. So the first guy that is going to fit that list, and a guy that we talked about all offseason as a guy we want to buy in season or after his first season, but man, I'm seeing all the good signs that I want to see out of Javonte Williams, running back for the Denver Broncos. He is looking to be a future top 10 type of dynasty back at this point.
Yeah, and I think it probably should go without saying that if you're a rebuilder, the best asset you can acquire is draft capital, not players. But we're talking strictly about players in this video. But of course, this is also a prime time to acquire draft capital as well, because people are going to undervalue it to some degree, especially contending teams. They're going to be looking for players to help them win. Draft capital is usually the cheapest it's ever going to be around this time of the season. So draft capital, definitely the thing you should be acquiring. But Javonte Williams is the guy that we're talking about right now. Of course, we've kind of made parallels to Cam Akers before with Javonte Williams. That week 11, beyond his bye week, we could see that post-bye rookie bump from Javonte Williams. I'm sure you'll put this on the screen right now, but we typically see rookie running backs scale production as the season goes along. They usually get better. The coaches have more faith in them. And it's a conscious decision that Vic Fangio, Pat Shurmur, and the Broncos coaching staff will probably eventually go. Melvin Gordon is a free agent after this year. He has a UFA, completely a free agent. There's no reason for us to continue feeding the ball to Javonte Williams or to Melvin Gordon, especially if they're not in the playoff race or something like that. So Javonte Williams is our guy going forward. We're going to give him, 60, 70, 80% of the opportunity share in the backfield. And we're going to see his value skyrocket after that, because right now his value is kind of mixed, right? But there's a couple things we know about Javonte Williams, right? We know Melvin Gordon's a free agent. We know that's not going to change. I highly doubt they're going to re-sign him. And we know the other thing is that Javonte Williams can play. He's shown his ability that we saw in college. He's one of the best top 5 running backs in elusiveness rating right now. One of the best at creating missed tackles, which is what he excelled at in college. So Javonte Williams, at the bare minimum, we have a super talented running back with high draft capital that is currently like 80, 90% value of what he could be. And it's not going to be cheap to buy Javonte Williams. This is kind of like a buy high, because everybody knows he's a great long-term asset, but they have that tiny shred of doubt that you can get a discount on right now.
Yeah, and my main philosophy in Dynasty is if you're going to go get a young, talented, superstar potential player, you're never going to be buying them low. Were you going to be buying Justin Jefferson low last year? No. Were you going to be buying CeeDee Lamb low? No. Were you going to be buying Jamar Chase low in the preseason? No. But if you look at any single one of those assets right now, their value has absolutely skyrocketed, and I see that being the case for Javonte Williams. I can see a scenario where, similar to what we saw from DeAndre Swift his rookie year compared to his second year, where he goes from maybe, a fringe top 10, top 12 type of dynasty running back to having a legitimate argument as being a top 3 back. I genuinely see Javonte Williams with both the talent, the opportunity, and his overall game. I mean, we've seen it in both the passing and the running game, the efficiency in both regards. Javonte Williams is going to be an absolute stud. And you guys can see some trades that have been currently made on DLF, but I love the Javonte Williams side in each of these. Giving up Kelsey, a 32-year-old tight end, to get Javonte Williams and a 2022 first is a great example of a trade you can do as a rebuilder if you have some aging assets on your team that are considered elite producers right now. That's a good trade. Javonte Williams and Rondale Moore for DK Metcalf. As much as I love DK Metcalf, you're getting two young, talented studs for him. I like that type of move. And as always, I love Jonathan Taylor. I think he's a stud future franchise back, but getting Javonte Williams and 2 firsts for Jonathan Taylor is absolutely ridiculous value, given the fact that I think Javonte Williams might end up being heralded in the Jonathan Taylor-like frame of mind in Dynasty by next year.
Right. And those 2022 firsts, we're hearing all the 2023 first chatter, right? We're watching college football every Saturday. We're seeing Bijan Robinson. People are not seeing really anybody outside of Isaiah Spiller kind of doing anything. I mean, Kenneth Walker's having an okay season.
Burks.
Same with Breece Hall's having an okay season. But these 2022 firsts, to get on top of Javonte Williams, this is exactly the type of trade I would make, this Jonathan Taylor one specifically, if you are a rebuilder. And if you're, maybe you said where Danny said at the beginning of the video, you don't know if you're a contender or if you're a rebuilder. Usually when you have that decision to make, you're usually best going towards a rebuild, because you're not going to, it's harder for you to jump from middle of the pack to a contender than dropping down to a rebuilder. So if you can make a trade like that, decide, hey, I'm not going to contend this year. My team's not good enough. Maybe I've suffered some injury, something like that. And you can turn Jonathan Taylor into 2 firsts. Maybe it's even just a retool and you're competing again next year.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. So you get to see some of those trades. We'll try to go a little bit faster pace for these next guys. But the next guy on our list is going to be Antonio Gibson, a guy that we were heralding all offseason that it really hasn't worked out yet thus far in 2021 with the shin injury, with the emergence of what J.D. McKissick's been used in the backfield. Antonio Gibson's kind of been thrust aside, but again, Dynasty Fantasy Football is every day. It's not just the offseason. This is the type of value period that you can capitalize on a guy with Antonio Gibson. Let's talk about the peripherals of the situation. J.D. McKissick is a 29-year-old free agent running back after the season. We have seen Antonio Gibson, when he is fully healthy, be one of the more efficient, talented breakaway runners in the NFL that we have seen. And we have heard the chatter that when Antonio Gibson is fully healthy, that they want to get him in more of a refined role. Now, I fully think that this shin injury was bothering him going into the year. He re-aggravated it during the year, and now he's dealing with the repercussions of that. I think by next year, you're still getting a 23-year-old running back that has shown the breakaway ability, and this will be the lowest you'll ever get him. So you guys can see some of the trade values that he has. Antonio Gibson and Devonta Smith for Aaron Jones and Mike Williams. Perfect type of rebuilding deal. I like both those young assets long-term, whereas if you're a contender, Jones and Williams will help you. So I think that's a fair trade both parts. I'm not saying that, you should go out and rip someone off, but if you can make this type of deal as a rebuilder, it's mutually beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, I think the key thing that what you just said was, if it wasn't for all these injuries, would we have seen what caused me to write an article called Antonio Gibson's the next Christian McCaffrey? Is this the reason why we're not seeing him used on third down? Is it because they're trying to preserve him? Because not only did he have the shin injury early in the preseason and to start the season, he also was dealing with turf toe throughout the summer. So if this guy was fully healthy, 100% coming into the season, would we have seen that Christian McCaffrey-like ascension? We don't know that for sure. The one thing we do know about Antonio Gibson is that when he's on the field, when he's not dealing with something, he is one of the best young, talented running backs in the league. He's very young still. He's still on his rookie contract, and everything is pointing up going forward for him. And like Danny said, people don't usually like to take the redraft standpoint with Dynasty, but it's still in people's minds right now. We're not seeing Antonio Gibson utilized to his fullest potential in redraft, and it's going to affect his Dynasty value to some degree. And I think, again, another trade that is similar to the Jonathan Taylor one. If you can get Antonio Gibson and 2 1s for Christian McCaffrey, if you're a rebuilding team, again, another type of trade that I think is also very beneficial for you. Anytime you can take a young wide receiver and trade him for a young running back as well. Like in this trade, this guy got Claypool and Higgins for Antonio Gibson in a 3rd rounder. Like any type of trade like that is always smart. This guy who is clearly a contending team, Leonard Fournette and Tony Pollard, he got for Antonio Gibson and Gus Edwards. Again, that is a trade that if you're a rebuilding team is absolutely essential to make moves like that, because people are going to overvalue players that can help them win now if they're contending.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. Antonio Gibson is a prime buy low right now, really, for a contender, because we have seen that when this guy is healthy, he was an RB4 in his rookie season in that first 10, 11 game stretch. I fully think he can recapsulate that type of form, especially as this Washington football team offense keeps getting better, especially if they bring in a young quarterback. But anyways, we can go on to the next player or players on the list, if you will. And Zach Wilson is going to be the main one, but we can also kind of lump his teammate Elijah Moore into this. And that's mostly due to the fact that we think that this Jets offense, while it's been going through growing pains, is going to eventually find itself out. And this is the lowest you should probably see Zach Wilson being traded for at this going point.
Yeah, like you're seeing a seeing ghost level, like Sam Darnold season out of Zach Wilson so far. And as a guy who was very high on Zach Wilson, I'm not going to deny the fact that he hasn't played well. That is, it's a fact. He has not played well. But the one thing that I will say about Zach Wilson is the scheme is very difficult to learn, right? They're implementing a 49ers type scheme. It's going to take some time. He lost his left tackle in week 1 of the season, which is also not helping his offensive line. While we heralded it as a potentially sneaky top 15 unit, is one of the worst offensive lines in the league right now with all the moving parts and the fact that Becton is out. So Zach Wilson, to me, he's at his floor right now is what I'm thinking. Like in terms of his value, how people view Zach Wilson, it seems like he's at his floor price right now. And as you guys can see with some of the trades on the screen, you're able to get Zach Wilson plus a first for Mac Jones, who, even knowing what I know today, I would still take Zach Wilson over Mac Jones straight up. The fact that you're able to also add a first-round pick on top of that is absolutely the malarkey. Basically, Zach Wilson and Devontae Smith for Calvin Ridley. Again, I think that's a great move to make in the Zach Wilson side. There's also one that's not listed on here that I saw was Zach Wilson in a 3rd rounder for Carson Wentz and a 4th rounder. Again, like you're getting a young quarterback who has all this physical talent and at the bare minimum is going to be a starting quarterback, which holds value in Dynasty for the next 3 to 4 years.
Yeah, no, I fully agree. I mean, this is still the 2nd overall pick. He's still shown flashes, although he has been struggling playing in structure thus far. It's kind of hard for any quarterback to play in structure when your pocket keeps collapsing on you within 2 seconds. See Chicago and Justin Fields right now. I mean, this is just kind of a mess. These rookie quarterbacks are struggling, but they still have the talent to be able to capitalize on that. And if you're getting a 23-year-old quarterback for the cheapest he'll ever be, and what I think Zach Wilson is going to end up being a long-term starter, but even if you don't, he's still got at least 3 years on his rookie contract labeled to him, which you can't say for many other young quarterbacks. You can't say for a Sam Darnold. You can't say for a Daniel Jones. You can't say for all these other quarterbacks. So being able to get Zach Wilson at his floor price and seeing still what you got in him is the optimal play, in my opinion. So off of Zach Wilson,
real quick on Zach Wilson, the last point I want to make is what I talked about all offseason. This coaching staff, this front office, they've shown the ability to invest in their young quarterback too. So now that, like, if Zach Wilson comes back in week 11, week 12, and he has a better, second half of the season, and they see, okay, this is what Zach Wilson's strengths are. He needs to be on the move and throwing downfield and whatever they determine his strengths to be. Joe Douglas has shown the ability to go out and get him what he needs. So if he needs a veteran left tackle, if he needs a veteran center, if he needs a number 1 receiver, if he needs a tight end, whatever the case is, I trust Joe Douglas to be able to go out and do it. Maybe they go out and they sign a Chris Godwin in the offseason. They draft, Isaiah Spiller in the back of the 1st round or something like that.
Evan Neal with their top 5 pick. Like Evan Neal, you play him at right tackle. You have Mekhi Becton at left tackle. You have one of the best young tackle duos in the league for the foreseeable future. Like, I trust this front office. I trust this overall system, this overall franchise to be able to figure it out, because this isn't your Adam Gase Jets. This is a team that, although they have been struggling thus far, I have a lot of confidence in the fact that we're hearing the right things. We're hearing, yes, this is going to be a long-term process, but we're ready to commit, buckle down, and try to fix it together. And
it was a little naive of us to assume that it was going to be right away, right? Like, because Salas came out and said, like, these guys are going to get torched early in the season. Like, he was on the Rich Eisen show, and he said, this is baptism by fire for pretty much every young player in this offense and on this defense, because that is how it's going to be. This is a rebuilding franchise. Nobody is expecting them to be good this year. And us kind of thinking there was an outside shot that they could be might have been a little naive to assume. So let's move off of Zach Wilson. Let's get on to a cluster of guys that we both kind of believe in. And basically what we labeled them as are young running backs that are on the shelf with injuries right now. Now, primarily we're talking about Travis Etienne, running back for the Jaguars, Cam Akers, running back for the Los Angeles Rams, and J.K. Dobbins, running back for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, and the way I kind of look at this is everybody kind of knows, although we love getting elite talents at every position, everybody kind of knows that the elite young running backs are going to be so hard to gather in fantasy in terms of dynasty. I mean, aside from maybe 5 quarterbacks, 6 quarterbacks, like guys like DeAndre Swift, guys like
Jonathan Taylor,
like they get to a point where they're nearly untouchable in dynasty. And the fact that Dobbins, Akers, and Etienne are currently so readily available due to their injuries, I'm willing to take the plunge that they end up getting up to that status. Now, is there barriers in between? Absolutely. Akers coming off the Achilles, J.K. Dobbins coming off the torn ACL, and obviously with Etienne coming off with that foot fracture. There is a ton of risk in getting them, but we don't play scared in Dynasty. We play to go end up getting as much accrued value as possible, and any one of these guys at their ceilings can legitimately be top 10, fringe top 5 type of running back assets in Dynasty if they end up regathering what we believe they're promised to be.
Yeah, and especially with a guy like Etienne, who we haven't seen play yet, he has so much unknown in his favor. And to me, he's my favorite of these three because we're seeing that Cam Akers is already like practicing and working out. So that's kind of like skewing away people's like thoughts. Oh, the Achilles tear is like a death nail for running backs, which may have been, we might have overblown that ourselves. Maybe Cam Akers is going to be okay, but it's still a concern of ours. But with Etienne specifically, we haven't seen him play NFL games yet. So we don't even know if he's even good, right? Like in the NFL sense. I believe he's going to be a good NFL player, assuming his injury doesn't derail his entire career or anything like that. So I'm going to buy into what I know about Travis Etienne, which is that he's a good running back who can play on all 3 downs. That's all I really need to know to be able to get him at a discount. I don't care about James Robinson, how they're going to handle that whole situation. We talked about this before we started recording, but I think the worst case scenario for Travis Etienne going forward is that in 2022, him and J-Rob are splitting the backfield. It's a Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard type situation in a worse offense, so they're not quite as good, obviously. But Travis Etienne will be alone in that backfield in 2023 because James Robinson, as an undrafted free agent, only has a 3-year rookie contract. So he'll be a free agent going forward, or who knows, maybe one of them gets traded. So there's a lot of unknown with Travis Etienne, but I'm willing to buy into the player that I saw at Clemson. That's really all it comes down to. And you guys can see some of the deals on the screen. You're getting that uncertainty discount with Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne was traded straight up for Henry Ruggs and Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, nobody loves Henry Ruggs more than me. There's no way I would take him and Juju over Travis Etienne long-term, especially, again, we're talking in the context of rebuilding teams. Again, somebody traded him away straight up for Leonard Fournette. I think that is a very realistic trade that somebody could make if they're trying to contend.
Yeah, or for example, we see another one here. Look, I think Cortland Sutton's a very, very fine wide receiver, but getting Etienne in a second, I think that's a good move for a young rebuilding team. Austin Eckler for Etienne in first is a really good move. And then the Mike Evans and James Conner for Etienne, Gallup in a second. All of these moves are perfect rebuilding type moves. You're getting young, ascending talents, ascending assets, and draft capital for really aging veterans that are at their production climax. So I fully agree here. Etienne's another one, and we kind of lump Akers and Dobbins in together. Obviously, the young, promising second-year backs that unfortunately will miss the year. But with Dobbins, I think he'll recover fine from the knee injury. We still see that Lamar Jackson is leading this offense despite having really no presence in the backfield. I mean, Tyson Williams, Devontae Freeman, Le'Veon Bell, Latavius Murray. Listen, when Dobbins comes back, him and Edwards should be that duo that we expected them to be coming into the year. And we have seen that Dobbins, whoever is in that backfield, is going to be efficient. Never mind Dobbins, who was quite literally on an Alvin Kamara-esque efficiency pace as a rookie. I'm willing to buy that as cheap as he currently is. Akers as well. I mean, Darrell Henderson's being used as that full workhorse back, but this is literally what McVay was saying going into the year. And while I don't agree with the support, I don't think it's going to happen. McVay's literally like, yeah, like this dude fired back. He might be ready for the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. But the fact that McVay is already so optimistic with this guy's return means that the recovery process might be going extremely well. So I'm willing to buy that at its current floor, which it currently is.
Yeah, for sure. So let's move from rebuilders to contenders. But before we do that, we got to hear from our sponsor. We got to pay some bills around here.
Yeah, for sure. Our sponsor over at Manscaped. You guys should be seeing this clip. Taking a break before we talk about players who catch footballs, a word on how you can protect your own balls. This video today is brought to you by Manscaped, the premier brand for men's grooming below the waist. With the world starting to open back up, the Performance Package 4.0 has you fully covered. The brand new Lawnmower 4.0 is quite literally the biggest X factor in men's grooming currently available, offering a Davante Adams-like impact to your manly parts. Manscaped has you fully covered. This 4th generation waterproof trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology, as well as having a 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on-off switch which can engage a travel lock, as well as gives you the ability to turn on a 4000K LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. Included in this Performance Package 4.0 is your Weed Whacker to fulfill your ear and nose hair needs, Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, Crop Reviver Toner, and a slick and comfortable addition to the package with Performance Boxer Briefs and a travel bag. In addition to the Performance Package 4.0, Manscaped is proud to also introduce their all-new Crop Cleanser. Have you smelled Manscaped Refined Body Wash? Fellas, the ladies love this signature scent. You and your boys will be oh so fresh and so clean when you start off your self-care routine with the ultimate body wash available on the market. This is an absolute game changer. You got to be smelling good. You got to be looking good. And the way to do that is obviously to go through Manscaped. We appreciate the support for the Fantasy Stock Exchange podcast by our friends over at Manscaped, the leaders in male grooming. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped for their shower time routine by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping with code BUSH. That's right, 20% off with free shipping if you type in code BUSH at checkout. Stiff arm those pubes out of the playoffs this year with Manscaped and make sure your balls are worth catching. Back to the video. Yeah, Corey, you actually use their body wash and shampoo. Let the listeners know your thoughts on it from a personal experience standpoint.
Yeah, I literally used it like 2 hours ago. It comes in like, like a metal water bottle, like the metal water bottle that you get. It comes in like that kind of like shampoo bottle and body wash bottle. It was like real professional looking. Anyway, smelled really good. So that was all I really needed to know about it. And I know there's like a list of things on the side, like vegan and all the stuff that, some of you guys out there might care about. So contenders. These are some of the trade targets that we're talking about for contending teams. Leonard Fournette is the first guy on this list. And again, a big example of this is the fact that I made a trade with you as a contending team and you're a rebuilding team for Leonard Fournette, in which I got Leonard Fournette and Jerry Jeudy. You got J.K. Dobbins, who was also on this list as a rebuilder, and you got Rashad Bateman on top of that. So the reason I made this move, and I'll basically kind of explain my rationale, is because Leonard Fournette is a top 15 running back rest of season this year. Maybe even you could make the argument that he's a top 12 running back rest of season because he is a workhorse back in quite literally one of the best offenses in the league, probably the best from an efficiency standpoint and the amount of points that they're scoring and passing volume. So Leonard Fournette is a guy that I think will really help your team out this year if you're trying to make a championship push, because he's a guy that can be your RB2 if you're missing somebody like Montgomery for injury, for example. And also, when I'm buying a contending asset, I don't want to just buy a half-year rental or a one-year rental. I want to also know that there's a world where this guy becomes more than that, right? And with Leonard Fournette, one thing that keeps him afloat in the NFL long-term is the fact that he was a top 5 pick. So no matter what happens after this season, he's going to have that name cachet that he was a top 5 pick, to the point that somebody's going to give him some money to be their, feature back or something like that. But what I think is the most likely scenario, and I've talked about this before, is that Tampa Bay re-signs him. And that's kind of why I wanted to buy into him. Maybe he gets a 2-year deal. Maybe he only signs another 1-year deal. Who the hell knows? But with Leonard Fournette, you're getting a top 15 back the rest of the season. You're also getting the opportunity that he might be Tom Brady's feature back for the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at Leonard Fournette is think of what everybody was talking about with Chris Carson, only he gets more overall volume. He's a more adept pass catcher. He's in a better offense, and he doesn't have nagging injury issues that Chris Carson was really dealing with for these past few years. I really like Leonard Fournette. I think maybe he's not the talent that a 4th overall pick would suggest, but he's a solid real-life NFL running back. I mean, he's getting the job done. He's getting a full workload, and Bruce Arians and Tom Brady absolutely love him. So if you're getting that type of reward, that type of upside for a guy who's currently really only being valued for just over like an early rookie 2nd round pick, like that's the type of price I'm willing to pay, especially as a contender, locking in a top 15 running back rest of the season. Yeah, Leonard Fournette is an absolute stud. The reason I dealt him, I know I'm singing his praises right now, but I'm getting a young asset with Dobbins and Bateman, and I'm kind of also shedding points to try to tank for that pick, which is a very underrated part of Dynasty. Obviously, you want to set your best lineup, but if your best lineup ends up having a guy that is on IR, if I pick up J.K. Dobbins, hey, like you can't make an argument at that point if I'm starting Deontay Foreman and Benny Snell.
Yeah, for sure. So some of the trades that you guys can see on the screen, I talked about the one we already made, but Chris Carson and Michael Carter, again, gave me Leonard Fournette there. Yep. Leonard Fournette and a 3rd round pick in 2022 for a 1st rounder in 2022. I think that's a pretty decent trade-off. That's about early 2nd round value if you kind of break that down. Terrace Marshall for Leonard Fournette. This is exactly the type of trade I would try and make. to a rebuilder. If you can dangle Terrace Marshall, Kadarius Toney, Rondell Moore, De'Ami Brown III, something like that for Leonard Fournette, I think that's a phenomenal move to make, because that rebuilder is going to buy into the unknown factor of a young receiver, and you get a proven, commodity in Leonard Fournette, and that's what you're looking for if you're a contending team.
Like Daniel Jones in a third for Fournette. I would take that plunge on Fournette there. And the last one's pretty interesting. I think it's pretty fair, but Fournette basically straight up for Kareem Hunt. I mean, it says 50 blind bidding dollars, but really 50 fab's not going to do anything. But yeah, that's a type of move too. Looking at it, same age, except Leonard Fournette actually has a greater path to RB1 status comparatively to Kareem Hunt. So I would slightly prefer Fournette there. But yeah, those are the type of moves you can make as a contender. Fournette should help you win now and still has some long-term appeal if he gets a second contract from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But we can move on to the next piece, the next buy now asset if you're a contender. And I shouldn't be talking about a 25-year-old wide receiver being extremely undervalued in Dynasty, but listen, Michael Gallup is quite literally at his floor after dealing with that calf injury to start the year. I mean, some of these trades, Robert Tonyan for Michael Gallup,
Tyler
Higbee for Michael Gallup. Jameis Winston for Gallup what are we doing here, guys? We're talking about a 25-year-old wide receiver who in his second year posted an 1,100-yard year, posted 900 yards with Andy Dalton slinging him the rock last year, and is still on one of the more potent offenses in the entire league with the Cowboys this year, and is going to sign a big deal next year. So I don't understand how people just kind of cast aside, throw away Michael Gallup like he's some bum, when in reality, this is an extremely talented, extremely productive receiver that is going to be getting a Corey Davis, Corey Davis-esque level contract, 13 to 15 million type of deal in this offseason for a team that needs a wide receiver. I think this could be a guy that could be a top 30, top 25 type wide receiver by next year that you are currently getting for Tyler Higbee.
Yeah, legitimately. This could be Aaron Rodgers' number 2 receiver. This could be Mac Jones' number 1 receiver. This could be, there's a number of teams. Michael Gallup could go to the Colts and, work opposite Michael Pittman. Like, there's a lot of teams that are going to need a solid number 2, maybe a 1B, even, they want to pay him to be their number 1. Who knows? Michael Gallup, to me, makes a lot of sense as a trade target. Again, similar to Leonard Fournette, you're getting that immediate production. He's on the Cowboys this year. He's going to be, top 36 receiver when he comes back. And next year, he has a path to even improve his value then, or you could just use him for the rest of the year and then trade him when he signs his new contract, or trade him during free agency when people, assume the best case scenario when he's going to sign. So moving off of Michael Gallup, we talked about some of the trades that we've already talked about. And I guess we're just going full homer picks with these. I didn't even realize that we did this, but Mike Evans is also somebody that I think is also a great contending trade target, because Mike Evans is a bit of an older receiver. He's been in the league since 2014. He's like 27 years old right now, but the thing with Mike Evans is you're getting guaranteed 2 to 3 year top 15 production at the wide receiver position, which is not something you can say about a lot of people. If you think about Mike Evans' situation, he's under contract. Chris Godwin is not. Antonio Brown is not. Rob Gronkowski is not. So he could shed some of his target competition in the next couple of years. And of course, this year you're getting a top 15 receiver, especially with the news that Antonio Brown's going to be out for the next little while. And Mike Evans is tied to Tom Brady for at least the next 2 years, is how long Tom Brady's under contract. So to me, contending teams, this makes total sense. Mike Evans to your team, you need a wide receiver 2, you need a wide receiver 1 even. Mike Evans makes a whole lot of sense for your team. We know he has touchdown scoring ability, weak winning ability. He's going to be a little inconsistent here and there, but every receiver is. So his inconsistencies have never really bothered me, and they probably shouldn't bother you anyway. And again, this is a guy that has never dealt with injuries either, which is also an underrated factor of his game.
Yeah, with Mike Evans, I mean, listen, everybody wants to cite every offseason, oh, this guy's due for regression. But this is the prime touchdown scorers in the league, thrown to by the prime touchdown pass in the league. I mean, realistically here, these two are going to be making magic for as long as Tom Brady is the quarterback for the Bucs, which for Tom Brady, I mean, can people realistically say he's not going to be the quarterback there for at least another 2 years? That's what his contract is. You can't. And if you're a win now team, you're getting Mike Evans with current wide receiver 3 type prices for a guy that, when he's on the field and producing, is a fringe wide receiver 1. I mean, this is a guy that has produced since his rookie year, is now in his prime, is producing as that elite fantasy wide receiver that we've been coveting for Mike Evans for a while. Like, he's a stud. He's an absolute stud, and he's not getting valued at it. Go get Mike Evans and go get him for Chase Edmonds, Dalton Schultz for Ronald Jones and Mike Evans.
Someone got Mike Williams in a second rounder for Mike Evans and Sterling Shepard. Mike Evans for
DJ Chark. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, it's pretty easy to buy into Mike Evans. Yeah, he's 27 going on 28 right now, but he's going to be good for the next couple of years at least.
Yep. No, I absolutely agree. Go buy Mike Evans. I think he could be a locked and loaded top 15 type wide receiver rest of the year. But we can move on to the next player and the final player on the list. And this is a guy we'll fully admit we're talking about before the show, but he is a buy high because you could have gotten him cheaper this offseason. But given what we've seen this year, given the MVP status, given the freaking fluidity of this offense, man, Matthew Stafford is a buy in Dynasty because let's be honest here, the other veteran quarterbacks that he is currently ranked around, the Aaron Rodgerses, the Ryan Tannehills, Matthew Stafford is in the best situation out of all of them and is still relatively young comparatively to a guy like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I totally agree. Matthew Stafford, would anybody be shocked if he plays the next 5 years in Los Angeles, right? If you're getting 5 years of Matthew Stafford, can you say that you're getting 5 years of even these rookie quarterbacks that we're talking about? We can't say that for sure, right? They could bust in 3 years and not be starters anymore. Can you get 5 years out of Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Carson Wentz, even some of the guys above those guys? Like with Matthew Stafford, yes, he's 33 years old or 34. I don't even know how old he is, 33. But he's 33 years old, but this is still a guy that has a lot of football left in the tank. Doesn't look like he's slowed down one bit. And he's never been a mobile guy anyway. So even late in his career, as long as they protect him well, should be a guy that has one of the highest passing ceilings in the entire league. And with Sean McVay calling the shots, who's also young, who's not going anywhere anytime soon, and his receivers, Cooper Kupp, they have some young guys with Van Jefferson, Tutu Atwell, some of the other guys that they have. I expect them to kind of continue to replenish their weapons group, even if Robert Woods moves on in the next year or two or something like that. So Matthew Stafford, again, this is a buy high. He's playing really well right now, so it's going to be hard for you to trade for a guy that is playing really well. But if you're a rebuilding team, do you want Matthew Stafford on your team? Absolutely not, right? You're going to be you're going to be a motivated seller, right? You're going to be trying to sell Matthew Stafford because you know his value's high right now, because you know he's playing well. So just by that fact alone, you are going to lose a little bit of value, because if you were also a contending team, why would you trade Matthew Stafford? But if you're a rebuilding team, you have a reason to trade him. So trading Matthew Stafford away for, if you can get him for a first round pick and a young receiver or something like that, I'm okay making a trade even with that kind of capital involved, or if you need to trade a young quarterback and a draft pick as well.
Yeah, like Sam Darnold in the first, I would rather Matthew Stafford there. Tua in the first, same type of deal. Mac Jones basically straight up for Matthew Stafford. Like, are you kidding me? Also, I found a little interesting nugget, decently unrelated, but Matthew Stafford entered the NFL in 2009. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill in 2011. The funny thing is, they are the same age.
Ryan Tannehill, the exact same age. Draft, actually.
2012, yeah, sorry. Yeah. They're the exact same age.
Yeah, that's wild.
Crazy to take in. 3 years more of experience, yet same age. But anyways, yeah, no, Matthew Stafford, complete buy, especially for a team that needs a stud, top 10-ish type of quarterback. Really, like a guy I expect to produce that type of numbers for the next 3 to 5 years, like you mentioned. This situation is not going to change. LA is one of the best, smartest, sharpest franchises in the league. They know that if something's wrong, they have no qualms, no problems with going out and fixing it. We have seen that with the Rams over these past 5 years. I trust McVay. I trust Matthew Stafford, and I trust that weapon scorer, specifically Cooper Kupp, over with the Rams.
Yeah, and like you said, this is a good franchise. It makes you sleep at night when you know that your quarterback that you have in Dynasty is attached to a stable GM and a stable coach and things of that nature, because you don't have to worry about situations like what happened with Sam Darnold in New York. And you don't have to worry about situations like that. And that makes your life a lot easier as a Dynasty player. So if you guys did enjoy this video, as always, hit the like button down below, comment any of your thoughts down below as well, and subscribe to the channel if you are new. One quick announcement that I've kind of forgotten to talk about all week. Underdog Fantasy right now is currently running a new promo where they're giving new users 100% match back on their first deposit. So if you guys deposit $50 on Underdog or $20, they will match whatever you deposit, 50 to 50, and then you'll have $100 to play with on the site if you use our promo code FSE. And of course, for using our promo code FSE, you'll also get our weekly rankings, our Dynasty rankings, our rest of season rankings completely for free. So you can do that by going to our website and seeing all the offers there. You can also buy them outright for $20 or become a Patreon. So quick wanted to plug that Underdog Fantasy announcement. Again, big thanks to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Peace out, guys. We'll talk to you soon.